Hi there. In the last video, I mentioned the beta program that I'm launching next week that I am super excited about. So I'd like to tell you a little bit more about that program. Grit Collaborative is a small group of women who are in various leadership roles in the corporate world and struggle with the challenges of their high sensory intelligence. Things like finding their own authentic voice and speaking up for themselves, setting and maintaining boundaries, prioritizing and taking care of themselves so they can show up more powerfully in all aspects of their lives, instead of, this might or might not sound familiar to you, trying to give everything they have to their work, their teams, their spouses, or partners, their families, their friends, their volunteer commitments, their pets, and never allowing themselves the time that they need to fully recharge. One of the things I hear a lot from these women is they feel alone. They're probably masking or hiding some part of themselves to better fit in some way. And most corporate environments weren't designed for us or by us. So it's fairly easy for someone with these kinds of traits to feel like they don't fit in. If you combine all of that with a leadership role where you may not have a lot of people that you can talk to about certain things to begin with, it can feel really isolating. I've been there. I spent more than 25 years in the corporate world, which is where a lot of you know me from. I was mainly in tech. I did some nonprofit and some other industries as well. And I held several leadership roles, both in startups and in global enterprises. I knew that I was wired differently from a very early age, but I had no idea that there were other people like me. I actually first came across Elaine Aron's book. I mentioned her in the last video in, I think it was about 2005, and learned from reading it that there were lots of other people out there like me. I mentioned that it's about 20 to 30% of the population. But for some reason, it didn't really land for me when I first read the book. It took many more years of pretending to be someone that I wasn't, and lots of painful experiences before I was reminded of the book and that 20% of the population. One of those experiences was an episode of burnout that was so severe, I ended up selling my home in the Bay Area, quitting my job, and moving to rural Peru, both for a dramatically different perspective on my life and for the time and the space that I needed to heal. I also had persistent adrenal fatigue, and it took me several years to recover completely. So I created Grit Collaborative in part to offer other women leaders a safe haven, a place to shelter a bit from the chaos and demands of their daily lives, and to rediscover the inner wisdom that so many of us buried really early on for various reasons, including to fit in. The program is designed to create connection and to provide support, to encourage vulnerability, and to develop mutual trust. Members will share their challenges and their experiences and learn from each other. Some of the things we'll cover are learning to embrace the superpowers that come with high sensory intelligence and how to bring calm and clarity to your calendar, your mind, your work and your leadership, and your personal life. So I know there's a lot to unpack here. I will start with, how do you bring calm and clarity to your professional and personal lives? Actually, before I do that, I'm going to start with the superpowers. I'll get back to the other one. So I mentioned before, a lot of us are told when we're very young that we're too sensitive. Sometimes when we're older that we're too sensitive. And that being sensitive is bad. For one thing, we don't have a lot of great role models for sensitive leadership. There are still a lot of people who believe that leaders should only show strength, that vulnerability is a weakness, and therefore it's risky. For another thing, even if we know that that isn't true, those of us who live with the trait can still struggle with a lot of everyday things that others aren't bothered by, which does put us at a disadvantage until we learn to manage our own responses. So the superpowers are the flip side. People with high sensory intelligence are highly empathic. We're usually very intuitive, although, again, this is something that some of us learn to hide at an early age because it is another thing that makes us different. We can be both very detail-oriented and careful, and also able to see the big picture clearly, looking at multiple perspectives and approaching things strategically. We're very attuned to subtleties and to nuances, and usually good at interpreting nonverbal communication. And we also tend to be good with words. So lots of different communication applications there. High sensory people are typically both introspective and very creative. We are often mission driven and focused on a higher goal. And these are just a start. So it sounds like a lot of characteristics that all leaders should have, right? Yes, and we also need balance. A lot of HSPs aren't interested in being at the very top or in the spotlight because we often prefer being behind the scenes in advisory roles, for example, where our strengths are critical and are valued. Those who are interested in more visible roles make some of the best leaders for all of the reasons I just described, as long as they're in alignment with their own values and they're prioritizing self-care. And when they don't, life can become really chaotic and overwhelming, and burnout often follows. If any of this resonates with you, I would love to talk with you. Again, I will put a link in the comments. You can reach out to me. You can schedule time on my calendar. I would love to talk with you, learn about your challenges, and talk about the programs I'm offering to help you face them and overcome them and really thrive in your life. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye.